Welcome back. For the starting of this video, you should have all of the levels or different heights of your clay tile carved away. So you've got your high level, your medium level, and your low level all carved in. And in this video, we're going to talk about a couple different things. Number one, we're going to talk about modeling. That's the bending or shaping or moving and adjusting of the material to make the image look and feel correct. So for example, on this tree, I'm going to model this tree a little bit and try to get it a little bit more tree looking. And then subtractive and additive sculpture. So we've talked mostly about subtractive, taking the material away. And at this point, I want to talk about additive, so adding material on. Okay, so getting started, back with our basic tools here. As we start modeling some areas like this tree, if I want to start modeling this, I'm going to just kind of use my tool to press into the surface and use the tool to model, and my finger to kind of model a little groove right in there. Now I haven't removed anything away, I've just kind of squished it. Now if I take this little piece here and I squish it around, maybe I just squish my tool into that surface there and then smooth it. I haven't removed any of the material away, I've simply just taken the material and moved it a bit. Now my clay is a little bit hard at the moment. It's what you would call leather hard, because I wanted to have it a little bit harder so that I could take this material and kind of scrape at it and fix things up. But you can still add and subtract things as you go. But I'm just now kind of gently pressing the surface and pinching and moving, kind of to make some different branch things. Okay, at this point you could also take some of that modeling and use that to the modeling to make texture. So if I'm squishing this little piece here with my fingers, making a branch underneath, I can again take maybe this little chunk here and separate it a little bit and then bend it over and make a little bush branch part there, and then maybe take this material and bend it upwards and round it out, but keep it bent to make a new part of the tree there. Okay, so I'm bending the clay, I'm moving the clay and modeling it rather than taking materials away. Alright, now with the modeling, you are going to have to decide what you want to push, what you want to bend, and how much you want to bend it. If I just take my finger and pinch that area up, now this is a little bit higher. This area I might want to press in just a bit to make different levels kind of within my one level there. Okay, I'm just modeling different bumps and ridges on here to kind of give it a not so flat feel, but maybe a more lumpy feel. Okay, now I could do the same kind of modeling down here in the tree roots. Maybe I want to take just a ridge here, and I'm just kind of pressing that piece in, and a ridge here, and bring those two ridges together to kind of make the tree root idea. Now I'm just going to take my finger, kind of slide it in there, and bend that piece back and kind of smooth it, and take my thumb and squish it in here, and now I've modeled that little tree root coming along there. If I smooth it and shape it, I can shape that tree root and model it rather than having carved it away. I now have modeled that tree root. So again, I'm modeling this clay to become what I want it to become rather than removing and subtracting areas. Now, let's say I've done some modeling. I've modeled the tree area here a little bit, and of course this is all rudimentary. I have a lot more to do to make this look finished. But I want to introduce the next idea of additive. So additive, we're adding something on. All right, so if I continue with this root idea, maybe I want to take a little bit of extra clay that I have left over and just kind of roll it on my palm to make a root. Then I'm going to add it on to my tree. Now the trick is you don't want to add so much on that you like create a whole nother level. Okay, so don't do that. The adding on is just a little bit to like change one little part. You're not going to add in, and some people might not even want to add anything on, and that's totally fine. In an ideal world, we'd have some slip, which is like mushy wet clay, but I don't have any of that made up yet, so we're just going to use some water. You just take some water and you kind of take your fingernail and kind of tap the surface and kind of score the surface with your fingernail. In another ideal world, we'd have another tool, maybe even like a bent paper clip, where you could like make little scratching marks onto the surface. This is called scoring the clay. You make little scratching marks wherever you want to attach the clay, and then you simply take the clay and set it down on top until you get it into the right place. And then you're going to kind of press it in, and then you're going to work the edges back and forth until you can no longer see the edges. So if I take this like root now that I've made here, if I take this and I'm working the edges with my finger, I'm smoothing the edges until I can't see the seam between the two pieces of clay anymore. If you can still see a seam between your edges, then you haven't smoothed it enough. Okay, and you want to have it smoothed out so that there's no edge. So if I show you that now, you can see this lump of clay I've added in, but you can no longer see the seam. Now let's say you actually want the seam there, like you want the seam to be modeled, then take another tool and actually model the edge of where you want something to be, but don't just leave the seam there. Okay, so I'm taking this and I'm just kind of like removing a little bit of the clay because there's too much there from adding it in. But I really want to just try to add the clay and then model that little bit. Okay, and I actually want this to come down to more of a point. I don't want it to touch my Zen circle. I want it to kind of curve almost along with my Zen circle. So I'm now going to take this added piece here and I'm just going to model it around to mimic that kind of curve of my Zen circle. Okay? So in this video, I've taken the time to show you how to model clay, to gently move it and manipulate it so that you can come up with a new meaning or a new form for the clay that you're working with. I've also showed you how to subtract the clay and add the clay in. So we've done additive sculpture here with putting a little bit of extra clay on. We've modeled this root here, and we've modeled some of the tree. So now that I've got those two ideas introduced, in the next video I'm going to work on this area, the whole thing, just by modeling and adding clay.